thank you everybody for coming to our fifth annual entertainment industry panel. And this is the first virtual one, so it might be the first of many. This might end up being a good format for us. I'm an associate professor at Moorpark College in the FTMA program, and I will be monitoring the chat today. We have some amazing guests today who are giving their time. They're all professionals in the industry, and I just want everybody to be super respectful of their time and make sure you give everybody lots of thanks for being here. Our moderator today is Liz Latimer. Liz is the film club president at Moorpark College, and she started working in films. Liz started working in films as an extra and stand-in in 2010, starting with a film with Aaron Paul and the first Avengers film. She continued her acting education and film TV work in Cleveland, Ohio, New York City, New York, and Birmingham, Alabama before she moved to LA in 2017. Since then, she returned to college to obtain her FTMA degree with an emphasis in directing. She has written, directed, and produced several short films while attending Moorpark College. This year, Liz graduates with a degree in FTMA and humanities and will be transferring to complete her BA. So welcome, Liz. Thank you for agreeing to moderate.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. All right, so fifth annual. Thank you. So this year is a little different, but at least we all get to hopefully be in our pajamas while we do this. So that's pretty nice. At least I am. I don't know. Now, thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to interview you all, and I'm going to start by introducing our panelists. Our first panelist is Lynn Berry. Lynn is the Senior Vice President, Original Programming and Development at Freeform, the young adult brand for the Walt Disney Company. In this position, she oversees the development of scripted drama and comedy series, including the Josh Thomas comedy, Everything's Gonna Be Okay, drama Motherland, and most recently, Cruel Summer, to premiere in April 2021 and comedy Single Drunk Female. She's previously held executive creative roles at ABC and 20th, developing and overseeing such series as Modern Family, The Goldbergs, and How I Met Your Mother. Welcome, Lynn. Our next panelist is Brent Kamalik. He is from Southern California and grew up entrenched in the surf and skate cultures here. He had a dream of pursuing a career in journalism and landed a job producing the news for CBS when he was just 21 years old. For Brent, however, the news business didn't gel with his desire to make a positive impact on young people, and he sought additional experience towards that end. Over the past 15 years, his professional work has included sports marketing with the San Francisco 49ers, running a summer camp for youth, and marketing at Fortune 500 companies. In 2014, Brent founded Dude Be Nice as a culmination of his passions for building a brand, telling stories, and positively impacting communities. Dude Be Nice has produced videos that have generated more than 80 million views, and he recently hosted a new show for BYU TV called Operation Awesome, which premieres on March 10th. So thank you, Brent, for being here. Our next guest is Rick Gear. Mr. Gear double majored in education and theater, speech, dramatic arts at the University of Richmond in Virginia. While working in theater, he has offered his first film and television job as an assistant editor and runner, learning on the job, at the animation company Kurtz and Friends. While there, he worked his way up to picture editor for shows including He-Man and Masters of the Universe, She-Ra, Princess of Power, and Fat Albert, and several features. His next move was to Marvel Productions as a post-production coordinator for such shows as Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Muppet Babies. Since 1987, Mr. Gear has been working in the historic Warner Brothers studio cartoon department, working with the legendary creators of WB Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. As well as the episodic and classic animation departments, he has worked extensively in preservation and archiving for Warner Brothers. Thank you, Rick, for being here.
Thank you.
Also love the list of shows there. All the He-Man, yeah. All right, our next guest.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry. Can you all see the 9 presenters spotlighted?
Yes.
You see all 9?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Liz.
Great. Okay. Our next guest is Craig Keene. Mr. Keene has directed 14 short films, some as short as 5 seconds, as well as 2 seasons of the web series On Hold. In the process, he's become an accomplished comedy director and editor. Besides filmmaking, Craig is also a professional visual effects artist and has been producing shorts for a wide range of television and feature projects since 1996, including Lovecraft Country, Westworld, Game of Thrones, and The Amazing Spider-Man. He has also been teaching a cinematography for visual effects course at the Nauman School of Visual Effects in Hollywood, California, periodically since 2014. Thank you, Craig, for being here.
He's not
Craig
here
will be
yet.
joining us soon. Gotcha.
Yes,
we'll reintroduce him when he gets here. All right, our next guest is Joanne Lowry. After graduating from Virginia Tech with a BS in marketing, followed by a second BS in psychology, Joanne Lowry worked various jobs in public relations and advertising. She later was accepted and graduated from the Directors Guild training program in Los Angeles as an assistant director. She has worked on various television shows and features, including Deadwood, The Drew Carey Show, Cold Case, Chuck, and most recently, Criminal Minds, Beyond Borders. Encouraged by coworkers and actors, she started directing shorts, participating in DGA sponsored creative workshops, and supporting diversity in film activities. Thank you, Joanne, for being here. All right, our next panelist is Vera Miolik. Miss Miolik is a cultural producer who founded in 2006 the Southeast European Film Festival, Los Angeles, CFest, and has curated major film perspectives for the UCLA Film Archive and Austin Film Society, and initiated a national tour of landmark short films with the Los Angeles Film Forum, Pacific Film Archive, Harvard Film Archive, National Gallery of Art, and MoMA. She has recently received multiple recognitions from the state of California, county, and city of Los Angeles, and the 2018 Women in Leadership Award from the city of West Hollywood. Vera also works as a creative advisor for independent filmmakers, guest lectures at universities, and produces scores of industry events, workshops, festival trailers, and panels. Thank you, Vera, for being here. All right, our next panelist is Ben Newman. Ben was born in Guatemala City and raised in West San Fernando Valley. Film and television have been a part of his life since an early age, and with his mother as a television producer. Ben was on set as an extra for many shows throughout elementary, middle school, and high school. He's currently working towards a degree while also working as a production assistant. One of the things he learned is if you're not 10 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. Thank you, Ben, for being here. Our next panelist is Genevieve Pearson. After graduating from USC with degrees in cinema production and business management, Genevieve spent several years doing everything you're supposed to do to get a job as a writer, a director in Hollywood, and failing at it. Unemployed and desperate, she applied for a reality show, King of the Nerds, and miraculously made it on air. This proved to be her unlikely break, as she was subsequently hired by 5x5 Media as a challenge assistant in season 2, working her way up to an associate producer, then into full-time unscripted development, making her way to director of development for unscripted TV at MGM Television, which produces Survivor, The Voice, Shark Tank, and more. Currently, She works freelance doing unscripted development for companies like Premier Ad Agency, Wyden and Kennedy, as well as challenge consulting for competition shows, including Cannonball and Flora's Lava. Thank you, Genevieve, for being here. Our final panelist is Brad Rushing. Brad is a native of Houston, Texas. Brad adapted his lifelong passion for and study of fine art into a career as a cinematographer. Highlights of Brad's work include Britney Spears' Toxic music video and Moby's We Are All Made of Stars, which won an MTV Music Award, The Moon Man, for Best Cinematography in a Video. Brad's commercial work includes NASCAR Super Bowl spot and work for brands such as ABC, British Telecom, Disney, Fandango, Fox Sports, Hallmark, Heineken, National Geographic, NFL, Pepsi, PlayStation, and many more. Brad has shot a number of feature films, including the award-winning indie Cook County and the Netflix original A California Christmas, which topped many Netflix charts and various metrics at #1 for days and weeks during the 2020 holiday season, coming in at #13 most popular features on the platform for 2020. And with only 2 weeks in release that year, Brad is a full member of the Canadian Society of Cinematographers, the Visual Effects Society, and the Digital Cinema Society. Thank you, Brad, for being here. And do we have Craig?
Yes.
Craig is here now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So our final panelist is Craig. Thank you, Craig, for being here. Craig Keane. Mr. King has directed 14 films, some as short as 5 seconds, as well as 2 seasons of the web series On Hold. In the process, he has become an accomplished comedy director and editor. Besides filmmaking, Craig is also a professional visual effects artist and has been producing shots for a wide range of television and feature film projects since 1996, including Lovecraft Country, Westworld, Game of Thrones, and The Amazing Spider-Man. He has also been teaching a cinematography for a visual effects course at the Nauman School of Visual Effects in Hollywood, California, periodically since 2014. Thank you, Craig, for being here. Yay, thank you, panelists. I'm going to take a drink of water because that was a mouthful.
Lots of great people. Thanks again for being here, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to start this by I'm going to ask some questions. If everyone can take turns, go through and answer them. At the end, we'll have some breakout rooms where people can actually ask personal questions as well. The first question is, what is your most recent job title? And please explain a few of your job duties that you have. And is Lynn here? Lynn, would you like to start?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am a senior VP of development over at Freeform, which is, you mentioned earlier, is the young adult brand for the Walt Disney Company. It's a linear cable network. We actually have original programming that airs on the channel and then goes to Hulu that night. So our shows are shown on both the linear cable network as well as Hulu for both linear viewers and streamers. So some of our shows are like Grownish, which is is like a #1 cable comedy. We also have Good Trouble and other shows that we had mentioned earlier. Everything's Gonna Be Okay, Motherland, and our new series, Cruel Summer, as well as The Bold Type, which is like our oldest show. So I'm head of scripted. What I do generally is develop shows with writers and, you know, hear pitches, work on scripts, pitch people ideas, hear their pitches for shows, work on their scripts, their outlines, and then at some point we decide based on scripts what we want to shoot and turn into a pilot, and then we do everything, you know, in terms of picking cast, picking key hires, and with hopefully going to series at some point. So basically I interface with writers, producers, and agents for the most part of my day.
Nice, thank you. How about Brent?
Hi, everyone. I'm Brent. Nice to meet y'all. It's awesome to be here. So I actually own a company. It's called Dude Be Nice. We actually started not far from y'all in Ventura, California. And Dude Be Nice is, the best way I could describe it is we are a content house. We create videos and tell stories opposite of what you see on the news these days. So we realize, and actually my background, if you heard the bio, I got my start in television news, producing the news. And I realized, man, I thought this was my dream job, producing the television news. And I thought it was so glamorous. But what I found is every single day I was looking forward to the worst of the day. And that's what gave me a story to tell. And so my career kind of took this turn where I did all sorts of different things per my bio. But about 6 years ago, started this company, Dude Be Nice. And the idea was, let's create stories and tell stories that really, really celebrate people, inspire people, and also are thought-provoking. And so my day-to-day is kind of unique. I run a business, so I do anything from the boring meetings about finance to creating new concepts to reviewing content. And most recently, because of the work I've done with Dude Be Nice, it's actually given me a platform to reach some larger production companies that have seen our videos on YouTube or Facebook and that have been viewed by millions of people. And so more recently, I actually hosted a TV show. So I was gone during the pandemic, which was crazy, filming 10 episodes, hour-long episodes of this show. It's called Operation Awesome. I get to hang out with 5 kids and go all across the country and basically make positive impacts on communities. And the kids only have 48 hours to do it. And so I hosted that show. So that comes out March 10th. So my day is kind of crazy. Every single day is very different. And I have 2 daughters now. And so it's very difficult to get a lot done during a day, but that's because they're not in school. We're in the middle of a pandemic and I'm doing my best.
I can relate to you there, Brent.
Yes.
Thank you. What about Rick?
Hi, very glad to be here. It's fantastic. The adventure that the students are about to partake into. I should probably introduce myself most importantly as coming from a post-production background. My job at Warner Brothers is extraordinarily unique in that I've been there for 34 years. And my niche there has been to specialize in the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies with all of our favorite characters, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Porky Pig. And because of that, having been in post-production and dealing with the cartoons, our library of cartoons and animation in general at Warner's, as we proliferated into the HB, Hanna-Barbera library, et cetera, is to deal with the content and the post-production elements as pertains to those cartoons. Our cartoons, as you know, were created beginning in the 1930s. So I'll often find myself dealing with nitrate film or original negative that was shot in the 30s and 40s. I am heavily involved now with preservation and archiving. We have an extensive archive, as you can well imagine. All of it needs to be tracked, it needs to be identified, it needs to be protected, it needs to be accessed. If you don't know what's in your library, you can't use it. So I'm heavily involved really with the post-production aspects of the cartoons as well as some live action shows. So my job kind of defies a title in that having been there for that many years, you develop skills and knowledge that many of the divisions need to tap into. And so I do deal with many divisions regarding countless questions as to the content, as to availability of elements, origin of material, et cetera. However, my title is film editor or editor, and that is what my life brought me to, from editing into post-production supervising and coordinating.
Nice, thank you. And what is your favorite cartoon character that from all that?
What's what?
Your favorite cartoon character?
Oh my, there's a great story about an Italian gentleman who had 5 sons. Somebody asked him, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, he said, who's your favorite son? He held up his hand, he said, I have 5 fingers. Which is my favorite finger? It's hard to say. I love each one of them for what they are, and I have had the incredible great fortune and blessing of working with the old guys when they were still there. They were Chuck Jones, Fizz Freeling, Mel Blanc, all those folks were still there when I started. And so I understand in those characters what they're made up of and who made them. So it's impossible to answer that question, Nicole. Sorry.
That's neat though. Thank you.
You bet.
Craig.
Oh, yes. You can hear me, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So my title is a visual effects compositor. My job, I mainly work with a visual effects supervisor day to day. I get, typically what happens is I get sent a bunch of QuickTime references, like really rough versions that the editors will put together so I can get a rough idea of what it is that they want me to do. I take a look at the shots and I give estimates based on my past experience of working on similar shots over the past 25 years. Once I give my estimates, they give me the full resolution versions of those shots, which is to get technical, what they call DPX or Cineon file formats, and they can be large files. And once I download that, I do whatever it is that they ask. I send them a version for approval. If it gets approved, then I send them the full res versions of things. As far as the scope of what it is I'm asked to do, I've done motion graphics. I've done compositing 3D elements that have been supplied to me that I need to incorporate into the shots. I've done a lot of invisible effects. Pretty much every single show on television at least has visual, what they call invisible effects. For example, beauty fixes, which is anything from maybe a hair that's out of place, or acne, or a complexion, I should say. Or if they want to do things like de-age a character, if something's supposed to happen 10 years earlier, then I can de-age them. I've done like some of the invisible effects are like removing things in the background that aren't supposed to be there. If it's a period piece, like Westworld, I might have telephone poles that aren't supposed to be there, so I remove that. I've pretty much encountered a lot of, pretty much anything you can think of in the last 25 years, I've pretty much worked on.
Nice. Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
Joan. Joan here?
Joanne, we can't hear you.
Oh yeah, we can't. You're muted, Joanne.
I know. I've been on so many Zoom meetings. It's like the law of the land must mute. Hi, I'm Joanne, and I came up through the Directors Guild training program, and I'm an assistant director. So I'm not a director's assistant, but I do get coffee sometimes. Basically, the assistant director is the point person to kind of be next to the director, and we kind of go between the producers and the directors. We help the directors get their shots. So the one of the jobs might be running the set, actually calling everything up to action, and sometimes we even do call action if the director wants us to. The first assistant director really is right next to the director, and I kind of call him the hands, the head. They get everything done. The second assistant directors, we, which is primarily what I do, we might interact with the cast, the background, we might set the background, run the trailers, like hair, makeup, and wardrobe, get the actors in and out, communicate all information, handle contracts. So I kind of call us the air traffic controllers and the crisis managers on the set, because we interact with every department, trying to get it all to work cohesively and keep on budget and keep on time.
Nice, thank you, Joanne. Farah.
Hi. So I run a film festival. I'm the founder, and although it's a nonprofit, it's just like running any business. I run the board. I have to raise the money. I have to make sure that we are in the black. I am responsible for the programming. I'm responsible for the grants. I'm responsible for a big team of programmers who help go through the movies. Producing the festival, organizing about 50, 60 movies every year. We go through hundreds of movies to get to the final selection. I work with and communicate a lot with sales agents and distributors, most of them in Europe or overseas. More often lately, US distributors are picking up movies from our region because they are so consistently winning, like, Sundance, the triple winner this year, last year. These are movies from our territory. Films that made history at the Oscars last year. Honeyland was also from our part of the world. So it's a lot of negotiating, trying to figure out how to fit, within a limited budget of a nonprofit festival, a lot of programming. I also come up with different other programmings throughout the year. I have to recruit people. I have to find talent. I have to find a lot of jury members every year. So it's just pretty much everything, working with a whole lot of people. We have volunteers, interns, and people from the industry who are helping us put together the program. And it's running really 12 months a year. It's not just, the annual festival happens over a week. We also have an accelerator program for projects in development, which I sent some information to Nicole about it. So for any student who's interested, we'd be happy to have you. So we have 7 days of workshops, and that include producer's pitch, panel, the scene, cold read scenes. We have, talks with distributors, social media, marketing, how to put together proposals, how to identify your target audience. We even run a the legal clinic. So in addition to the festival, not that I have that much time for anything else, but the few filmmakers that I appreciate, and the younger filmmakers who are really, trying to create bold movies, I do, help them and consult mostly on the rough cut, when the movie's in a rough cut phase, to give them some advice on that, or, what would be the festival strategy. But mostly, I think it's better to talk about, your ideas or project and movies early on, because sometimes there are some mistakes you can't go back and fix them when you get to the rough cut stage. I've also worked in marketing. I worked on marketing for films in US distribution. So it's, and I worked in advertising as well for about 5 years here in the US. So it's, that's a lot of different things. And I started out working in, when I was a student, I was a production secretary. I worked as an assistant in the production design department. We did a lot of location scouting. I learned what it takes to do a breakdown, and it was a wonderful time. So I worked on about 10, 12 international features, and it was wonderful. I loved it. I know how hard it is to make a movie, and how incredibly hard it is to make a good movie. So it's really a lot of work. And I'm also a journalist by training. So I identify with what, the other speaker was talking about, the journalism, although, I still do believe in investigative journalism and good stories. I think writing is still one of the most important skills to have. And I will close with one film that I recommend that everybody sees. It's a Romanian film collective that's been really a phenomenal film, one of the best films of the year. And it again made history at the Oscars with double nomination for Best Documentary and shortlisted for Best Documentary and Best International Film. It's a spectacular film. It's really like it should be taught as how you make a perfect documentary. It's nearly perfect. It's just a phenomenal film. So I do recommend whoever can to see Collective from Romania. It's a wonderful film to watch, and restores your faith in the best tradition of filmmaking. So I will close with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely check that out. Thank you, Vera. Ben.
Well, I'm not nearly professional, say, but I'm starting out as a PA right now, and I'm actually on set. But I started, like I said, as an extra since I was in elementary school. So I've always been around cameras, production, because that's just what my mom did. So I got in pretty young, I guess. But right now as a PA, I guess I do runs, which is getting pretty much whatever production needs or any other department like talent or camera or lighting needs. And then also specifically to me, I run check-in in the morning. So I check people in. And then on the last show I did, I ran the tests from the set to the testing labs. And pretty much as a PA, you never want to just sit down and just do nothing. There's always something to be done, whether it's taking out a trash can, asking producers in different departments if they need anything. So I'm pretty much busy all day, but I don't have nearly as much stories or experience as other people do, but I do have about 9 months of experience so far. So that's about that.
Nice. And you're on set right now.
I am on set. Yeah, I was not able to get home in time. Traffic was kind of awful.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Ben. Genevieve.
Hi. Okay, so hi everyone. I am currently a freelance producer of unscripted development. I was formerly a director of unscripted development at MGM Television, where we made Survivor, Shark Tank, The Voice, a lot of big unscripted reality shows. What I do is I basically work on the sell side, and production companies bring me kind of the germ of an idea, like a log line or a loose summary or something like that. And I help develop it out into a fully fleshed reality show. So I do a lot of act breakdowns. I create episodes using research. I do everything you might need to do to get that show sold. I create pitch decks. I help produce sizzles. I do everything so that when the production company is ready to take their show to someone like Lynn on the buy side, it's a fully fleshed out product that's really easy for executives who are trying to buy something to see and understand and visualize. So basically everybody's sitting around a coffee and they say, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had a show about teenagers who went to become elephant tamers in India? How would that work? And they'd call someone like me and I'd be like, well, let's figure it out. Let's see what we would do. And that's what I do. I also do challenge consulting, which is much more niche. But when people have competition and challenge shows and they really need a lot of fun, off the wall, TV friendly challenges, they also call me and I help create and brainstorm those. So I worked on things like Cannonball and Floor is Lava. I did a lot of early challenge work on that too. So it's another aspect of my job.
Those are fun. Reality shows are always fun to watch, especially the challenge ones.
Yeah, challenges are my favorite. I will not lie. I have a lot of fun doing them.
Laura's Lava is so fun to watch with my kids, by the way. Just want to tell you that.
It does what it's supposed to, right? I mean, it's just supposed to be entertaining. That's what yeah. It's good to work on too. I really liked that group of people. So it's a lot of, you always have people you like working with, and that's one of my favorite groups.
Nice. Thank you, Genevieve. And Brad.
Hi, I'm a cinematographer, and my job begins early in pre-production when I come on board and I discuss with the director and the producers, and depending on whether it's a narrative project or a commercial or a music video, there can also be artists, clients, managers, labels, video commissioners. So I have conversations with them about the concept and the look, the style, the mood, and I just kind of wrap my brain around the ideas that they have in mind, and then I add my own 2 cents, and we sort of conceptualize the whole thing. Then as we move into production, I'm the head of the camera department, and I'm responsible for assessing all of the things that we're going to be shooting and talking with the first assistant director to make sure that the schedule is, that it facilitates the fastest work that we can do in the camera and lighting departments. That we're just working as effectively and efficiently as possible. I try to anticipate challenges where we may need extra people or where we may need some pre-rigging time or pre-rigging days. I'm responsible for assessing the equipment needs in both the camera and lighting departments. So camera, the particular camera we choose to shoot with, whether we need high speed or low light. Same with the lenses, whether it's a standard spherical type of shoot, whether it's an anamorphic shoot, whether there's any specialty lenses that we might need for macro photography or effects. At this point, I'm also probably, if there's visual effects, I'm beginning to interface with the visual effects department and coming to understand what their needs and requirements are, and then also giving them feedback from my point of view. And then we move into production. I've hired crew as well. I crew up both the camera and the lighting departments. And then I oversee those processes on set. Sometimes I operate cameras, sometimes I don't. I'm responsible not only for making everything look good, but for matching and continuity. I have the director's back along with the script supervisor and the AD to make sure that we're not crossing any lines, that we're not missing any coverage. There's times when we're running short and we have to decide if we're going to drop or consolidate things. That's a conversation that I can be part of. And then, part of my responsibility is to make sure that we don't go over budget. Managing my resources properly. Sometimes I'm negotiating with vendors or crew. Sometimes I have to call in a favor or get creative when we, don't have what I would like to have to make things come together. And then I'm also managing time because we have to make our days. So I do my best to make sure that nobody's ever waiting on the camera or lighting departments. I try to keep us running ahead. And then once we wrap and we move into post-production, there are times that I have an informal role with the director, having input on things like the edit, the visual effects, just from the point of view of a cinematographer, giving that perspective. And then ultimately the color grade, I will sit in and supervise the color grade that brings all of those elements together in the final picture. And that's what I do.
Nice, thank you, Brad. All right, so thank you guys for answering the first question. On this next one, if we could just get like a 2-minute answer And what is something that set you apart for your first job? We all know how hard it is to get that first paying job. What is something that set you apart? And Lynn, if you want to go ahead and start, that'd be great.
Yeah. I think my first job when I was an assistant to the head of comedy over at 20th, I would say what set me apart is I read everything that came across the desk and I wrote up coverage on it. And I would send it to my boss. I would send it out to the team, and I was just an assistant. So I think for me, and what was really great was, or not so great, is that I would literally send this coverage to my boss, and he literally never reply to me for like months. I mean, it must have been 3 to 4 months. And then finally, after I would just read it and I would send the coverage, read it and send the coverage, he finally just replied once, like, I agree with your notes. And I was like, oh, it was like the best, most exciting thing ever. But what I really did to distinguish myself is read everything, had a point of view on it. I distributed it to the team. And then I just became the person, even as an assistant on my boss's desk, the person who, oh, here's a book, sounds interesting. Lynn, will you read it and cover it? Oh, I really like the note on that. Lynn, will you read this script for me? So I tell people all the time to just, when you're in a position like that, find the thing that distinguishes you, the thing that you really enjoy doing, that people will then, seek you out for. So that's what mine was, reading and doing coverage and having a point of view.
Thank you, Lynn. Brent.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'd love to hear that from my first boss, why I stood out. But from my perspective, my first real paying job, other than delivering drugs for a pharmacy legally when I was in high school, to seniors. My first real paying job, just when I was a senior in college, kind of really the career kind of path had started. I got the job producing the 11 o'clock news for CBS on the Central Coast of California. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, not too far from y'all. This is Cal Poly, by the way. I think the thing that I would say that the reason I got that job wasn't necessarily because I was better than other people. I was better at connecting with other people and willing to go to do whatever it took to make connections with the people that could put me in a position to get that job. And so I remember tracking down alumni from my college that worked at this station that I wanted to work at. And I just relentlessly tried to build a relationship with them. It wasn't just bugging them, but it was asking questions, asking to meet for coffee, sending things that I've done to get their feedback on. I think more than ever, we are so connected with each other. LinkedIn, these type of interactions, like the panel y'all have right here, these are all people now that you technically have in your network. And I'm sure Nicole or Liz would be happy to connect you with us in some capacity if you have questions. I think the biggest mistake we can make is to think, oh, they're not going to get back to me. I don't have anything to offer. Who cares? You have to try. You have to try to make those connections and build relationships with people. And that is what will enhance your career. And that's what I've always leaned on. And when I say build relationships with people, it's very easy when you can tell that someone only wants to connect with you because they want something from you. I've always been very curious about other people and what they do and how they got there. And I would encourage all of you to cultivate a personality of curiosity, and that will help you really grow in your career.
A lot of people usually like sharing information anyways.
Yeah, it feels good. I love when young people reach out to me and say, hey, where did you get started? Like, they don't say, hey, can you repost something? Or can I have a job? It's like asking me questions. And I think I really enjoy it. And I'm sure all the people on this panel, appreciate and can see themselves, 10, 20 years ago in those shoes as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Brent. Rick.
I'll make this very quick. This is a very peculiar truth of what happened. When I was in college, I was a theater major, as you remember, Nicole, when I told you, a troupe came through town from Warner Brothers. This is years before I went to Warner Brothers. They were auditioning for the roles of Porky Pig, Elmer Fudd, and the Roadrunner on a stage show where we walked around in these outfits. I auditioned, I got the role. When you go out to look for your work at the early stage, you don't have a lot to put down there, especially if you're a theater major looking for work in a town that makes films and TV. So I put that on my resume. I had played Porky Pig, Elmer Fudd, and the Roadrunner. An editor got a call from a friend of his, said, do you have anything coming up at your place? There's this little guy, he's very enthusiastic. He's really wants to try to get a part of a team. And can I send him over to you? And he said, ironically, I need an assistant editor. And this is the truth. I went over to my dear friend Mike's editorial room. He sat down. He said, what do you know about film? I was very honest with him. I knew nothing about film because I was a theater major. But he said, well, I tell you, I just had to see that guy who played Porky Pig, Roadrunner, and Elmer Fudd. And don't worry, I'm going to teach you exactly the way we do post-production in our editing room. You're hired. That is a bizarre story, but it's the absolute truth. Years later, of course, I end up making my longest career at Warner Brothers. What I want to say is life is amazing. It's really important to step out, do unusual things like that. Put something like that on your resume. Put something that sets you aside. I agree with Brent 100%. Care about people. People care about you being a person they want to work with in the trenches, in tough times. They want a person, I believe, who's genuinely interested in people and what they need to do to help each other to move through these fascinating things that we all do, and have a genuine curiosity about what you're going to do, learn it well, and make yourself available all the time. If you're the one who's sitting over there and something needs to be done, they're going to point to you and say, hey, can you do this? And then all of a sudden, a lot of people are going to say that to you, and you'll become very much needed. And I'll tell you, you learn from the bottom up, which I think is incredibly important. So prepare yourself as a person and be willing to step out and eagerly become part of a team in a very genuine fashion. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Rick. Craig.
Yes. Let's see. What stood me apart? I was very lucky in that the first job I ever got was because I knew someone who knew someone, and they wanted something. It had nothing to do with visual effects. When I got hired, it was going to be, except for a visual effects producer's assistant. So my job was just to do scheduling and things like that. And I went into the visual effects, the CG department, and there was an intern there that had a Photoshop question. And usually people that they just hire off the street didn't know Photoshop back in 1996. I had taught myself Photoshop in 1992 for fun. And so I knew the answer to this question. And they said, oh, if you know Photoshop, would you rather work in the CG department or do you want to keep answering phones? Obviously, I wanted to work in the CG department. So that was the only app that I knew was Photoshop. Things were slow. That was about a couple weeks into the job that happened. So they were very nice and they said, sure, you can work in the CG department. But then one of the things that I think that set me apart was that I was extremely interested in everything. It was at a post house, and I wanted to learn everything. Like this was a time when they used tape decks, they used D1s and D2s and exabyte drives, and I learned patching. Obviously, nothing useless knowledge now, but in 1996 it came in very handy, and it was about a couple weeks into the job in the CG department. They asked me if I knew After Effects, and I lied because I knew it sounded like something I wanted to do. that you could lie in 1996 about that, but not today. They didn't give me an increase in pay. They were just like, well, you know, just here's some shots. If you do them, however long it takes is fine. And so, like a lot of people back in the mid 90s, I taught myself how to use After Effects, and that launched my career. So my career in visual effects started with no knowledge of how to do any of those shots or how to use the software. So I was very, very lucky. They were patient, and it's just, again, the timing and luck of knowing people, but also I was very, very proactive, and I knew that was something that I felt I would be capable of doing, and that's how my career started.
Good word too, proactive. It's really important. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Joanne.
Hi. Wow, you guys all had so much good stuff. I'm kind of like just trying to prepare myself. Basically, I would say that for me, I mean, and Ben, right now, as a PA, you are putting in the time, and you, if we're the hands, you're the little toes and the feet that keep the production going. So as a production assistant, you're building the blocks and making contacts and learning skills. I was fortunate enough to get into the Directors Guild training program, which is an apprenticeship into assistant directing, producing, and the Directors Guild. But I basically worked my way in when I was right out of college. I was a bartender, and then I eventually ran the Hard Rock New York, all because I wanted to be behind the scenes and working in the events. What it gave me was an ability to think on my feet and personal skills in dealing with people. And I kind of brought that to being an assistant director. Some of my first jobs were dealing with actors in a base camp, knocking on a trailer, getting them to go to hair and makeup. And I just treat people like I would want to be treated. And also I treat people like they'd be my neighbors. And so I think, especially coming out to Hollywood, I was from the East Coast. So I had a little bit of a New Jersey girl, attitude, and it would disarm people because I really wasn't dealing with them as a star or celebrity. I was dealing with them with a person. So if they were hungry, I'd be like, let me get you food. What's the first thing in the morning? Some actors don't want you to talk to them. They just have their head down. They want to, start the day. So if you're all up in their face, like, hi, how are you doing? You're going to set the day off for them and possibly affect production because of your interaction. So throughout everything that I've done, it's treating people with respect and curiosity. I know Nicole mentioned curiosity, wanting to get to know them better, see what they need. And every person that I've met, I try to learn something from. It might be a good trait, something good. And there's also people that I learn and I think, I never want to do that. I never want to be like them. So yeah, I try to take, if I see somebody doing something, I ask what they're doing and why. And just in general, in this industry, I think it's as much identifying where you want to be, but also starting somewhere and eliminating what you don't want to do. And also finding out what other people do. And just like, I think Richard, Brent, all of you guys, you started in one area thinking you wanted to do something, and you really just kind of veered off and got on the road that you wanted to do. So I think the main thing is getting out there, being on time, like Ben said, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late, being prepared, being willing to do anything. Because when I hire somebody to work with me, I don't necessarily hire them because of their skills, but their willingness, their eagerness to learn, and, do they have an intuition to do the right thing? And I think that a lot of this industry is faking it till you make it, but also admitting when you don't know something and letting somebody teach you. So it's an openness and just really, I think, kindness. I think that's what we all need right now.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of you talked about, one of my questions too was going to be soft skills. And a lot of you have kind of said that's a big part of it. Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Farah.
Yeah, well, I think two things that worked for me with every job I ever had were resourcefulness and ability to write. I can write stories. I can write something about nothing. I can come up with the short blurb, with an essay, with a treatment, with a motto, with the tagline, so writing, I guess, quickly was something that set me apart. And I have to thank my early mentors in journalism who had patience with me and who really drilled into me how things are done. And at first, the first 6 months, I thought it was terrible. I'm an idiot. I will never get it. And, whatever I did, it was, but then after 6 months, I started, like all of a sudden, like from black and white, I went into color. I realized what they were trying to do. So I think finding good mentors is crucial. I'm so grateful. I had wonderful mentors throughout my life. From when I was a student to the first job in the newspaper, to working in a studio, working with different people. And, if you have a very good person who's a producer or whoever it is that hires you, it's such a wonderful experience because they really tell you, they really help you. And after, that one experience with a movie, you are just years ahead. And I always try to be resourceful, to be a problem solver. I think it's a good, and research helps with that. I can figure out how to do anything, or I believe I do. So I think that's what's really important. But mentors, if you can have anyone who's willing to teach you and work with you and give you some advice, it's a wonderful, and more than one person is great. I think that, I'm forever grateful to people who helped me with advice, and they were not, they were kind, but they were like really trying to make me understand where I was doing things wrong. So it is, I think, very important to have people who will tell you, no, this is not good, rather than always saying, oh, you're wonderful. And so on. So it's important to be kind and respectful, of course, and having the people skills so that you can work with others where you also accept the criticism from others, but you're also able to give respectful and useful critique to colleagues and friends. So I think that's what worked for me.
Thank you, Vera. Ben.
Well, pretty much off of everyone, the top three would be like what Rick said, just to ask if there's anything you need to do, ask about learning. You never, even when you have downtime, like I said, you could always do something. So even if there is there's always something, but if there's not anything, because sometimes there are dead periods in production, go to an accountant, or what I do sometimes, just go to an assistant producer, or not assistant producer, a producer, and just ask. I go up to my production, my manager of production, I go to him and just ask what he did, how he got to where he was. You'll want to learn from the people who hired you. Also, the way I got in was also Craig. I was fortunate enough to know people. I know my mother, but one of my closest friends, his dad, is the producer of these shows, and he told me to get into the first show, which was a dog grooming show called Hot Dog. And he was like, do you want to work with us? And I'm like, sure. And that comes to another thing, is you always want to say you have time to do it. If they ask you if you can work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., say yes. You want availability, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. You want to be available. You don't want to say, oh, I'm busy doing this, oh, I'm busy doing that, because then they're not going to be able to trust you to show up on time, to make time for work. So that's another thing. And then also, like Brent said, caring is a big part. The reason my production manager put me in check-in is because he said I have a smile in the morning. So like simply just saying like, hi, how are you doing? Good morning, welcome to work. Like it changes some people's days. Like you can see, like at first I just said good morning because that's how I was raised. Say good morning to people, how are you? All that. But then quickly you'll see how the energy just comes back to you. Like I'll just be walking to grab a snack and people will be like, hi Ben, how are you? Back to me. It's just, and yeah, there's just all that combines to just being not just a good PA or good lighting or good anything, just an overall good person pretty much is the key thing to do, and you'll get far in the industry. And that's about it.
Thank you, Ben. Genevieve.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I can say that hasn't been said, but I'll say, just to build on everything else, yeah, be a good teammate, right? These people are hiring someone for their team. You want to be a positive, happy, easy to get along with person, because that's who they want on their team. You want to be a person who pitches in and works until the work is done. That's just how I was raised. If you look around, if there's work that needs to be done, you pitch in and you do it and you get it done. And I think those really just helped me move up quickly, those two work philosophies. And the other thing that's maybe more specific to my career path that helped me a lot is writing skills, having really good writing skills, having really good creative problem solving skills, because everything in television and movies, there are logistical constraints on what you can do, right? You have budget constraints, you have time constraints, you have what you can get. And if you're a person who can look at all of your limits and still think creatively how to solve problems and fix things within those limits and do a good job at it, that will really put you above and beyond. So being a problem solver.
Thank you, Genevieve. So Brad, if you want to go ahead and give your input.
Yeah, so first, when I first got out of film school, my first job was doing some live television, which wasn't really my thing. And so when that ended, my first job working on a scripted feature, it was a little indie project. And it was terrific because I brought experience. I had, worked in music, so I had audio experience. I had some, basic film experience from college, and I would jump in wherever I was needed. I could be the boom person, or I could work in the grip department. I wanted to learn. I never wanted to be standing around waiting for somebody to tell me something. So if I didn't have anything to do, I would look for somebody who was busy and ask if I could lend a hand. And that's one of the things I always tell young filmmakers is, pay attention to set, to what's happening on set, pay attention to what people are talking about, and try and learn to anticipate where things are going to be needed. If background needs to be wrangled, if camera department is moving some monitors and needs help with a case, wherever you can see an opening. I think it's important to be able to understand how things work. Plus, you learn how the different departments work. The other thing, and I wasn't sophisticated enough to do this deliberately, but I overdressed inadvertently. And that was something that everybody remembered about me on that show. And so that was an important lesson in being memorable. And this is a creative industry. Some of the best advice anybody ever gave me was about just a meeting that I had. And they said, Brad, this is show business. Put on a show. And I take that to heart in everything from designing a resume or a website or your public persona or your work. It's a creative industry. And I think being self-expressed is welcome, and it helps set you apart because you have a distinctive style, or you know, there's something about the way that you've designed your website, or the way that when you're speaking, you're just very generous. And again, like Brent and so many other people said, is take a genuine interest in the other person and have that enthusiasm. And the only other thing that I would mention is that on that first day that I was there, somebody forgot the sound recorder. And it just so happened that I knew somebody from school who had one, and I was able to save the day. But that set a precedent where I learned that no matter whether you put him there or not, Murphy is always on the call sheet. So you have to anticipate. And as a department head, I have contingency plans. I have backup plans. I try to anticipate things that could go wrong. And you know, before anybody has to ask me, I've already got some alternatives. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to say. Somebody was talking about asking questions for young people. Is never be shy about asking questions. Never feel that you know, you've got a silly or stupid question. You've got to remember that all of us at one time were you. We all started from nothing and then learned this and built it up. So we're going to be sympathetic, and the, you know, the most regrettable question is the one that you don't ask and have to learn the hard way.
Thank you, Brad. That was amazing. We have a couple minutes, so if anyone just wants to jump in and give any last minute advice, anything you would like to let students know, maybe about how to start networking or how to get out and meet people now, especially with Zoom. There's a lot more opportunities now, which is really great to meet people and do things like this. But just anything in general, real quick, any last minute advice before we do the breakout rooms?
You know, I feel like there's a central theme that I want to point out. I forget who said it. Was it, let me see here. Maybe, anyways, just what I forget exactly who said it. Maybe it was you, Joanne. But I think what when I was in college, I think a lot of us in college or even in high school, we're kind of led to believe like we have to have it all figured out. We pick our major, we go down this path, and this is what we're going to do with our life. And I think the best advice that I could give you all is try a lot of things, build relationships, and see what sticks. Find out what you like, find out what you don't like, and then start traveling down the path that gets you closer to your true dreams that really will bring you joy in life. And I think Joanne, you said something. You said, it's in the chat. You'll see it. Look up. I noted what Joanne said, but I thought it was profound. And bottom line is, you don't have to have it all figured out. Raise your hand of all the panelists. Raise your hand if even at this point in your life you have it all figured out. Exactly. None of us have it all figured out. We're trying to figure it out, going through this life journey, and hopefully we're just treating people well along the way and learning new things.
To that, I want to just add that if I can, I really thought in my heart and soul, I was going to be this great Steven Spielberg director, right? This is who I'm going to be. I'm going to be Steven Spielberg. If I just work at it hard enough and long enough, that's going to be me. And I had a really rough few years, you know, of trying and not making it. And it's when I kind of went and stopped and looked around and tried something different that I had my break in the most unexpected way. And I found something I was really good at that I really did love. I mean, I went on a reality TV show, which I never in a million years would have thought that was my personality at all, right? And from there, it just kind of blossomed one thing after another, you know? So definitely keep yourself open to possibilities and realize even if things don't turn out the way you planned, it doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that your success is in a different direction than you originally thought.
One thing I guess what you guys have all been saying is whatever you do, even if it's not the job you ultimately want, if you do it well, somebody will recognize that, and it's your work ethic. And it kind of reminded me of another thing, that everyone that you interact with, you don't know who they really are. you don't know their backstory. And when I was first starting out, I was on the Drew Carey show as a Directors Guild trainee, and I dealt with a lot of the background. And on more than one occasion, somebody wrote a letter about me saying that I was nice and thanking me. And I thought, well, gee, I hope everyone's nice. But one thing that stood out was one of the studio execs, and a lot of the people would come to show night and watch. It was a lot of fun. And they came over to me and they said, hi, I want to thank you for being nice to my mom. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't think I know your mom. And it turned out that, you know, a lot of times background, it's fun being on set, and there are people that are actors, there are people that are doing it to make money. They're all there for different reasons. And sometimes some of the higher ups and executives would be like, oh, you know, can my mom or dad be on the show? You know, we'll sit them at a table in a restaurant. Well, unbeknownst to me, one of the executives' mom was just this sweet, sweet, dear little old lady. And she's like, I've never done this before. And, you know, so I helped her out. I was nice to her. And that got back to this person. So everyone that you interact with, you don't treat everyone like somebody that you can get something from. Just treat them with respect, and be aware that you never know who you're interacting with. So yeah, just do your best when whatever you do.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for all your advice. It was all really amazing.
But I want to say thank you to everybody for coming, and feel free to sign out, or if you want to stick around and chat some more, you're all welcome to stick around. Once again, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, guys. Good luck. Have fun. Have fun.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or anyone else.
Well, I know Vera has an answer for me, and I'll bet it's quick. So go for it, Vera.
Yeah, well, as I was saying, I would, you know, really go with a short blurb. I would write a half page. I would make it really, really powerful. I would spend a lot of time writing it, and I would try to communicate the passion and why you are the only person on the planet who can make that into a story that everybody would want. Well, not everybody, because you have your certain target audience would want to see. I would not spend my time unless you are well out there into the process. Proof of concept and things can really paint you in the corner. Wait until you go to the the film market, the American film market, the Berlinale market, or something like that. Wait until you go there, until you have gone through the process, because you will make something, and then 6 months later or 10 months later, you will find out that you did a disservice to yourself and to your project. So start with the writing, trust the written word, and try to make that written word like a spoken word, that it has the tone, the passion, the energy, the sorrow, everything in it, and make that. Don't go over half a page. I would say 1 page max, but less than a page is good. And then, hammer it out and try to work it better and better and better, make several versions, and then wait until you do the whole, project, the concept and everything, get a few people to work with, to critique it. And then down the road, you will get to the point where you will make a proof of concept that will be really powerful.
Thank you. That's awesome advice. I really appreciate it.
Sure. My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Vera.
And I wanted to answer Jeff. I was in the middle of just mentioning to Jeff, who is involved with computers. And I just wanted to say, as an example, you've got Warner Brothers, who has just moved, as you probably may have seen in the news, rather in a rather provocative way, and certainly it was something caused a stir towards the heavy move towards streaming. As you may have seen in the news, the question of going with the tentpole productions, releasing the theater, or whether you simultaneously do it streaming. The bottom line is this: I've been in the business 43 years. I started in film. I did film all the way up through the mid-90s, and dealing with film. I have seen the evolution of data, Data is now a major driving force, Jeff, in the delivery of content. What I do in preservation and the dealing of old films that are, you know, they're on nitrate film, for gosh sakes, from the 1930s, and all sorts of formats. We now move, in fact, right now, what I'm heavily involved in is dealing with film that was shot prior to digital, but has the information of resolution. You know, yeah, Brad's the king of this. He knows all this. He knows the relevance and has dealt with it, I'm sure, obviously, a million times. That's your information. You go back to your OC on your original negative, scan it, and then you have 2K, 4K, 8K, you know, on and on we go. But all of that data is manipulated now. And it is, we archive it, store it, we deliver it, you manipulate it, you QC it. There are so many facets now that data play in the production and output of content. We have so many young people now who are in our departments, in the departments that do all of that. Delivery for Hulu, delivery to Netflix, you know, on and on and on. So you're entering it at a phenomenal time if you're interested in data and computers. And my strong suggestion to you would be, first of all, believe you will be in a studio situation if you want to do that. I know that sounds very Pollyanna-ish, but if you act on your intent and keep persisting, you increase the probability of its reality 1,000,000 times over. Then try to get in touch with somebody in a department or somebody who will take an interest in your interest, be genuine and involved, and you can be brought into these departments, and I assure you, you will thrive. I've never seen such a transition. Is that right, Brad? The, you know, transition from film to digital is just amazing.
I mean, if I could say something, oh, go ahead, Brad.
Well, I didn't bring myself up. Somebody else brought me up, but I did have a thought that I was going to talk about because, you know, Rick was very rightly talking about the revolutions in technology, and really from my point of view and in my department, they're just incredible. So many from, you know, the fact that you can edit on your laptop now, the fact that you could shoot on your phone and come up with professional quality images. But one of the things that Brent said, again, I think is one of the most significant things that was mentioned tonight is the importance of authentic and genuine networking, not just, you know, going out, passing out resumes and trying to hustle jobs, but getting to know people and taking a genuine interest in who they are. This is a business where people tend to hire folks that they like. You're going to spend 12 hours on set with them. You're going to be pulling overnighters in the Bay, and you don't want people who are hard to be around. So one of the blessings that you folks have that we did not have is social media. You can take these people and do your due diligence on Google, on their media, and find out about them. What do you have in common? Do you like poodles? Do you like cats? Do you like Indian food? Do you like camping? Do you like sports? Find people that you have genuine interest with that transcend or are outside of the film industry, and look to connect there. Because the other thing you have to realize is folks all day long are having people say, will you read my script? Will you give me a job? Yada, yada, yada. But you want to talk about their cat? Oh my God, you know, wow, somebody who loves cats too. And let's have that conversation. So again, it's a business of relationships, and build authentic relationships, not ones that are based on you asking people to do stuff for you. And even more so, when you're talking to them, listen to them. See, what do they need? What's, you know, what would make their life better and easier? And even if it's just, oh, here's this boat show, or I saw an article, or you know, I had an extra ticket and I thought you might want it. All of that kind of stuff. It's just think of them as friends. How would you treat a friend?
Yeah, I'm in retirement age, although I don't want to retire because I love my work so much. I'm 70 years old. I obviously could have, certainly considered that, but I can tell you, and I have many friends who are retiring. One of my dearest friends, he was the head of archives for Warner Brothers, Stephen Anastasi. He was there for 25 years and he was all over before that, came from Turner. He always, every speech I go to, every retirement, everybody says the same thing. Although I love the projects, what I will miss the most is the people. What I will remember the most is the people. And it's just the truth. It is an industry that is as collaborative as I can imagine. And the collaboration can either be joyful or it can be grueling. And the way you make it joyful is by being joyful in what you do. And you get through it. So it works, So I love what you do. Cinematography is just, I marvel at it. I used to go to the Cinematography Awards. I was invited by a lab, YCM. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but a phenomenal little boutique lab. They restore little things like Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz and others. And I have such regard for what you do. It's marvelous. And we're trying to protect
Rick,
everything.
You and I can have a mutual admiration.
What's that?
Rick, you and I can have a mutual admiration society because I'm a lifelong lover of animation. One of my favorite classes in college was the history of animation, going all the way back to Gertie the dinosaur.
Yes,
and I had the privilege once of meeting Chuck Jones. So
Chuck,
I'll email you. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. And it's very true. The people that I spoke about are exceptional for a reason. And animation, I've always said, so honestly, the job I got, literally, I told the editor, he asked me how much I knew about film, and I swear to God, I said this. I told Nicole this. I said, well, you go to the store, you buy a little cartridge, and you put it in the back of your camera, and then you go to a little place in a parking lot, and 3 days later, you come back and pick up your pictures. And I knew nothing about it, but because that place was such a boutique of a little cottage industry animation, I learned everything because it was all in-house and people were so generous, with their assistants, to learn it all. And that's what we've been saying over and over again. It was very genuine enthusiasm about it. And it's the same with what I do now in archiving and preservation. We care immeasurably about these things that have been created over the years. And Chuck appreciated it. The artists, Chuck, all them Frizz, everybody, of course they appreciated it because it was their passion too.
I remember one of the significant things that Chuck Jones said, because at the time that I met him, it was in the mid 80s when all that hullabaloo was going on about how, the violence in the cartoons. Yes. And Chuck said, we didn't make these for kids. We made them for ourselves. We were the intended audience.
That is absolutely correct. I could tell you a million stories about stories that Chuck told me and that Mel has said, and they all circulate around. You really did have a good situation at Warner Brothers because the administration in general had a hands-off attitude. They just kind of let those crazy animation people have the back of the lot and do their thing. But it was always for adults to make themselves laugh. And they used to have meetings, which is a really neat concept. I told Nicole about that and she thought it's great too. They were called yes meetings. And Clampett, Chuck, McKimpson, Frizz would be in these meetings. These are the directors and the writers. And Michael Maltese, a writer, would be presenting a storyboard. The one we have a famous picture of is Bully for Bugs, where Bugs, confronts the bull, who the administration at that time said, there's nothing funny about bullfights. Don't do anything funny about it. Don't do a bullfight cartoon. And so he's doing this cartoon talking his way through the storyboard, and you see them in this great classic picture, and they're all watching. Well, the purpose was this. The idea needed to be extrapolated upon. Each person had to contribute a positive idea to move the idea forward. That was the purpose of the meeting. So it was a yes meeting. Oh yeah, if we did that, then yeah, we could do this. If at the end of that meeting, it didn't work, it didn't work because it had been given every opportunity to work. And that kind of attitude and cohesive unit quality is why Warner Brothers cartoons, that and the perfect storm of Milt Franklin and Carl Stallings' incredible music. And there's an adage in animation: comedy does not exist in a man opening a funny door. Comedy exists in a man opening a door funny. And that's why the cartoons work so well. And you can watch them 100 times because Daffy's going to walk over to Bugs in Rabbit Seasoning and say, "You're despicable." But you're laughing at the way Daffy delivers the line, the way he trudges over to Bugs, the anticipation of Bugs looking out of the side of his eye. It is the execution that's the humor. And they're just brilliant people, brilliant. But the film, we would have
a lot of people a lot of people in our generation were introduced to opera and classical music through Looney Tunes.
Well, KUSC has.
I wouldn't know the Barber of Seville if it wasn't for Bugs.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't know the Barber of Seville if it wasn't for Bugs.
Yes, it's ironic that you say that because KUSC right now has a program called Where I Learned to Love Music or something. And the callers come in and they tell their stories. Needless to say, the cartoons brought us so many things. There's a famous Anvil song. Dum, 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 da-dum, 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 da-dum. That was actually Popeye, pounding on somebody. We actually put together a show, one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, being a theater major. I went to Broadway, to the Gershwin Theater with Bugs Bunny at the Symphony, Bugs Bunny on Broadway. It was a show conceived by a music composer, George Doherty, who is also a very prominent conductor, ABT, Seattle Symphony, Los Angeles Philharmonic. He called me and said, "I have an idea for a show where we would project cartoons and I will conduct the orchestra in the performance of the music. We'll feed in the effects." And it has become an incredible program that's run for over 25 years all over the world, 100 and some countries. And it's the brilliance of the music in one of the finest formats you can see how it works with the film. Rabbit of Seville, What's Opera Doc, Long-Haired Hair with Bugs is tormenting the baritone at the Hollywood Bowl. It's just brilliant stuff. Yeah. And the film for all that, you'll be very interested, is sequential. It's SE negative because in animation, the actors are very well behaved. They don't move. So if you want to shoot a YCM, yellow, cyan, magenta, you don't have to have 3 strips going simultaneously. It's going to be yellow, cyan, magenta, frame 1, yellow, cyan, magenta 2. It's called sequential. So, a 1,000-foot roll of content is 3,000 feet because of the separations. But we can have great conversations. It's amazing. End of filmmaking.
Well, I just want to say one more thing because I don't want to dominate because I'm sure other people have things to say, but my favorite Looney Tunes cartoon of all of them is Mark Antony and Kitty.
Oh, Pussycat. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's Chuck Jones. Chuck always said the importance of every line needs to be emphasized. And it's very true, as you know, in any kind of a character. Chuck was known for his incredible character poses. He would do the poses, and then an assistant animator does the movement from pose 1 to pose 2, etc. They have to be very skilled and very great draftspeople, assistant animators. But Chuck would do that pose, the pose of, you know, of Mark Antony looking at this little kitten on his back. You know, it's a single pose with his eyes looking back, the mouth down. You know, that's what makes it funny. Oh, it's one of the sweetest cartoons you'll ever see.
And
beautiful character.
The look on his face when she hands him the cookie.
The cookie. She thinks it is a cat that's been ground up and made into a cookie. And it isn't. Of course. But as far as the violence too, on Warner Brothers cartoons, Frizz had this belief. It's detached violence. In other words, I also used to work on G.I. Joe at Marvel when I worked at Marvel. To me, that is violent. That's man against man. That's army shoot 'em, kill 'em type of stuff. If you have a detached form of comedy, of violence, if Wile E. Coyote's going to have an anvil dropped on his head, you're going to cut to him in the next scene and he's restored after he does the accordionated move across the frame. It's so detached from reality that it isn't harmful. It doesn't make you do violent things. Three Stooges type of slapstick. It's more like a slapstick comedy. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if I can't see anybody else. I see Bess and Ben, and I don't think there's any questions there, but are there other people here too, or is that our little group?
Yeah, it's we still have 21 people here.
Oh, are you kidding me? I'm so sorry.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in.
I do.
Please.
I got something.
Abby, go ahead.
Okay, well, for starters, hi everybody. My name's Abby, and I would like to get involved into the acting and voiceover industry. I'd like to be able to get my start and be a part of all the wonders that makes entertainment that's awesome. And I'd like to know how to please, I want to know.
Well, animation uses a lot of voiceover, as you know, Abby. In fact, I used to be an editor for voiceover sessions or recording sessions, and for the Warner Brothers shows. And I will just say this very quickly: anything in the arts that you want to do it, like now. Don't wait to have to go do it. Get the equipment. You guys are so fortunate, as Brad said. I mean, when we used to edit a show, there's no way I could have done anything except in a big editing room, etc. You guys have the tools that are just incredible. Create a digital, I would have said reel. They used to call them reel. It was magnetic, mag, quarter-inch tape of your voice. Develop characters. Also do straight voiceover. You do have a unique voice. Do straight voiceover for commercials, your own stuff. Put a reel together. And then I would also go to a good workshop. There are many who are not after your money. They're really after developing your skills. And in today's world, voiceover is acting. It isn't the Gary Owens type of good evening, nice to have you here. It's real people acting, real people. And most of what they'll teach you is how to do a performance. Convince somebody they need to buy a bottle of cleaner, but care about it. You have all the tools that you can develop your own reel yourself and then get in a class of instruction. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, awesome.
Abby, I wanted to say, if you'll send me an email with a note reminding me who you are. I have a friend who's got a Facebook group called So You Want to Be a Voice Actor. And I'll send you that link. He's a buddy of mine up in Calgary, Alberta, and he does a lot of dubbing of anime. And he also does other voice acting and voice work, but the anime is one of his big things. But something I've seen some composers do recently, which I think if I was you, they'll rescore something. They'll take some contents, strip the audio, and put their own on, so you could take some anime or an animated character and then redub it with your voice, or you could take a commercial and do the narration super quick. And I think you need to acknowledge it is what it is. You don't want to, you know, try and pull the wool over on somebody. When my composer mentees post that, they say, I've rescored this. And then if you do join that Facebook group, you could take that up with Brendan Hunter, who's my buddy. He's the one who runs the group, and say, you know, Brad suggested this. Is it a good idea? Is he an idiot? And if it is a good idea, how should I go about it? But there's a lot of good content that's posted. And then Brendan also does professional workshops. So that would be an interesting place to start.
Okay, awesome.
And also listen, Abby, listen and watch. Okay. You know, if you want to do character animation, watch cartoons and watch characters. If you want to do straight, listen. What are they doing? Very, very important in any of these skills.
Yay.
And I believe you can do it. I can't emphasize that enough. I'll tell you something. I was a little boy in upstate New York, and I used to watch a TV show called The Rifleman. You've never heard of it, but it was a very, it was a very popular Western show. And it was iconic, quite honestly. And I was 11 years old, and I'm up in upstate New York, as far away from the glitz of Hollywood as one can imagine. But I loved the show. And there's a young kid on the show named Mark. And I remember distinctly watching it thinking, God, that kid's got what a neat job. You know, how neat is that? How fun. That's really neat. Okay, this is in the 60s, early 60s, years ago. I went to Johnny Crawford's wedding. I ended up working with his father, editing He-Man and She-Ra. Things can happen in your life. That was the little boy on the TV show. I happened to become an editor on He-Man and She-Ra, which was a cartoon show in the 80s. And Bob, his father, was the editor with me. I got to know Johnny extremely well. I went to Johnny's wedding. You just don't know what will happen. You know, you act upon your wishes. You act upon what you would like. And that's how things do happen.
Did you embarrass yourself the first time you met him, since you were such a fan of his from Rifleman?
No, you know why? This is what I believe about our business. If you have something that's interesting, truly, first of all, person to person, everybody, you know, we talked about it 100 times in this thing. People, you must love people. I believe in our industry, you've got to love people. Their potential, who they are, what their story is. I really believe that. And in Johnny's case, I happen to love music. And I also happen to grow up in a family that had a gramophone and Thomas Alva Edison records and all this stuff. Well, Johnny's father was a major music publisher, Crawford Music, actually co-owned by Warner Chappell, the company that Warner Brothers. And so our conversation started out with a commonality, a passion and enjoyment of music. In fact, his wedding gift, I found a whole bunch of his grandfather's sheet music from the 20s and 30s, and I gave it to him, a box of it. So again, where's the commonality that we share? I went to the Annie Awards, which are the Academy Awards of animation. And there's the Sherman Brothers. The Sherman Brothers did, like, you name the Disney piece of music and they did it, okay? I felt okay walking up to them and starting a conversation because I work at Warner Brothers with Carl Stallings music, who is considered the greatest animation composer who ever lived. And I'm not saying that in a biased way, it truly is. He is considered the best. And of course, they were delighted to hear stories about Carl and me about their stuff because we had that commonality. So no, I didn't feel, it could be presumptuous, but I felt we were on equal footing. You know, we're all putting our feet into our pants at, you know, leg at a time and making a go of it and something we love. That's how I feel about it.
So, something I'd like to say about what Rick's talking about, you know, because again, this is a business of who you know. It's a relationship business. And, you know, when you think about people you might like to meet or you might like to work with, or especially people you might like for mentors, you know, I already told you guys that I was and still am really, really shy. And my mother told me a long time ago, because I would easily talk myself out of things. She said, Brad, learn to ask for what you want, because the worst thing that's going to happen is they'll tell you no. Yeah. And so ask and don't, you know, this is a hard business. Don't be the one talking yourself down. Don't be the one limiting your choices and possibilities. Just like what Rick was saying, think big, think that big dream. And who would you like to have as a mentor? You know, practically speaking, it may be difficult to get to a Steven Spielberg, but some of these voice actors, some of the television directors, again, you are blessed to live in a world with the internet where you can go on LinkedIn, you can Google their personal websites, you can check IMDb Pro, which is a subscription service, but if you don't have it, maybe somebody you know does. And oftentimes people's contact information is in those places, email addresses, phone numbers. Typically, you don't want to go through agents and reps, but oftentimes people's personal contact is on there. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest secrets that I recently learned is that DGA, the Directors Guild, out of all the guilds, has a public member search directory. And I've found directors' phone numbers and email addresses, you know, and again, you have to be polite and do your due diligence, learn something about them. Don't just hit them up asking for something. And you know, like Nicole said, definitely don't say, will you read my script? But like, you know, Rick was talking about this shared love of music or animation. Find something to open with that's not about what they can do for you, and try and create a meaningful relationship, because, you know, what a gift to be able to reach out to those people. And the other beautiful thing about social media is when you click on a profile, you can see, do you have mutual friends? Could you ask for an introduction from somebody you know? So it's so important to, you know.
And share their genuine passion. They are who they are for a reason. And I guarantee you, it was their passion for the field they chose. People are very excited to talk about that which excites them. and it isn't intrusive. You don't, like I was working in a little cottage industry in Santa Monica in the 80s called Duck Soup. And we made commercials, animation commercials. I went to the market at lunch. I'm standing in line and like two people in front of me, maybe three before the checkout lady. And then who's behind me? I turn around and there's John Lithgow. John Lithgow, if you know him, he's one of the greatest actors, I believe, that we have. He's a chameleon actor. You don't even know it's John. That's a true actor.
He was just in The Crown, right? He played Winston Churchill in The Crown.
Yeah. And he also just did, what was that? It was about Megyn Kelly and Fox.
Yes. He played, not Murdoch, Robert Ailes.
Ailes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so, all right, we're in a grocery line. Obviously, you can tell I'm not a very reticent person to talk. And I would say hello to anybody, you know, who's standing next to me. I'd say, hi, good, how are you? You know, whatever. So I said to him, I said, hi, how you doing? How are you today? And he said, oh, I'm fine, thanks. And I said, listen, I have to tell you, I said, and believe it or not, I had just seen The World According to Garp the night before, which was one of his finest films. And I said, geez, you know, John, it was just great, brilliant performance. You know, I really appreciate your work because you care so much about your characters, and that's conveyed. Well, an actor likes to hear it. They care about what they do. And he was very receptive. He wasn't put off at all. He said, oh, thank you so much. You know, I really tried to work whatever he told me. And then he said, well, what do you do? What are you interested in? And I told him I work in animation. He said, oh, you know, I love da-da-da. And I said, so what's your next project? And he said, my favorite. He said, I get to spend the summer with my daughter. So it was a great conversation. It revealed what a neat guy he is. We talked about his craft. He asked me about my craft. It was a conversation between two people. You are equals if you share a genuine love for another person and in a humanistic way, and you share a passion for the arts. That's a heck of a combination, guys. And you're already obviously headed in that direction, I assume, you know, if this is your field that you've chosen. The arts is the study of life.
Oh, wow.
That's what we're all about.
That's true.
It is. That's why I love the arts. I did theater, you know, years. I did it in summer stock in Connecticut in a barn. Our plays were about life. Everything we did, every script is a study of life. So, you know, it's cool. You guys you've chosen really rewarding focus, I think. And the other thing, I have a very dear friend who she calls me a mentor, but I'm not an artist. I am somebody who's worked around artists. Her name's Margaret Toe. You should look her stuff up. It's Megatoe. She USC grad. She's probably late 20s. You know, just like you guys. You're not in your late 20s, but same path, right?
Hey, I am.
Of course, Nicole. And that's accepted, of course. But what she has chosen to do is take her very formidable graphic arts skills. She was an art director at a little graphic design studio, and she saw a greater purpose in what she needed to do in life. And she said, well, what can I do? I can use my skills. And so she and her boyfriend, who is a director, formed this company that focuses on projects that are renewable energy, that enhance the environment, help the world. So that is the company's purpose. Now, she's a very good artist, and she'll get jobs because of her skills. She's won festivals. She was in Europe speaking at one of the awards she got. She's only like 30, 29, 30. But her purpose is much greater than just to go and get a job at a little company and make some bucks and have some fun. And I believe if you discover that at some point, you'll be more fulfilled, and you'll probably do better work ultimately. Your purpose will be greater.
Well, I think we've had so much good information here. I don't know. Oh, did somebody, Brad, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say we were talking about reaching out to people and reaching out to mentors. When I've talked to people that I mentor in the past about why they didn't, the most common explanation I hear is they didn't want to bother that person. And so one of the things that I want to address is, first of all, what Rick is saying is if you approach them from a point of genuine authenticity and enthusiasm, if you've taken the time to get to know a little bit about them, that's, you know, you're going to have done the best you can. And the other thing is that, like I referenced earlier, there was a time when all of us were you. If some young person comes up and talks to me, I'm going to make time for them because, you know, 30 years ago, somebody made time for me. It's called paying it forward. So try not to, again, I have that anxiety still, but try to at least logically understand that they're going to have sympathy and they're going to have compassion and empathy because they were you, and hopefully you have common interests, and that's what you're going to talk about. And in terms of, this is also a business where you have to keep nurturing relationships. You can't meet somebody once and then disappear. And so people will say, well, again, I don't want to bother them. And what the best way I've learned to deal with that is say, I'd like to call you again. When would be a good time? Or I'd like to write you again. Never leave it open-ended. Just because one thing is that lets them know that you're not going away, but it lets them manage it. So they can say a week, a month, 2 months. And if they don't tell you, then say, I'll reach out to you in 6 months. I'll reach out to you in 2 months. But always put that thing on the calendar so that they know that you're coming back. And again, you may think, well, isn't that a little assertive? Isn't that a little annoying? To me, what that says is that you are all about committing to engaging. You are all about following through. And if I'm looking at somebody as a potential employee, that's a good quality. That's a quality that they don't take no for an answer. They are polite, they are respectful, but they're persistent. So to me, that would say a lot about somebody.
And I would be amiss if I didn't take this second to add this. Every year, I donate money to the Motion Picture Fund that has supported me. I'm a union member. I got into the union in 1983. And there was I told Nicole this, there was this wonderful person in my life. Her name is June Gillum. She has passed on by now. But you remember I told you I was a theater major and knew nothing about film. And I get a job as an assistant film editor. Well, that's a big issue. So I can bet you bet your bottom dollar when the editor would say, Rick, we need a double rank CRI, order it. The phone would be picked up. I'd say, June, what's a double rank CRI? And she was at Technicolor as a negative cutter. And she'd say, Rick, come on over. And I would stand next to June, and she had her editing bench, and she would pull down some film, and she'd say, Rick, this is 35 millimeter. And to get 16 millimeter, you take the 35 and you have duplicate images, and the two together become approximately 35 millimeters across. So a double rank CRI is made from a negative, and you have two reduction images on it. She did that for, you name it, day after day after day, until I had a very thorough knowledge. Well, every year, as I said, in her memory, I donate to the Motion Picture Fund, because just as Brad said, there are so many people who took time to show me. I did enter, Brad and I both entered, I would say, at a time when there was more time. I think people did take more time to show you stuff, but you will find them, and they will be your mentors. They will be the people that you want to latch on to. Find good people, find the real ones who are really good at what they do. That's who you want your teachers to be. And I always remember something else. We love dealing with you guys too, because you are the new ideas. You are the new perceptions. You are the new, and we need to tap into that. We want to stay vibrant. We want to stay expanded and expansive. You have something to bring us too. Don't ever forget that.
One more thing I want to add about mentors is we become invested in you. I mean, if you come to me and I'm giving you advice, I want to see you do well. I want to see you take that advice. I want to see you prosper. And if you show me that you're a good mentee, if I recommend you to someone and I get a call about what a great job you did, I'm going to keep recommending you, and I may eventually hire you. And I may 5 years from now hear of an opportunity where somebody's looking for a young director, a young first-time director. And I'll be like, you know what? I have a mentee. In fact, I'll tell you, I private messaged Rick early in this thing. And I said, Rick, I've got a mentee who wants to be in animation. So I'm looking out for her already, and she doesn't even know. So you know, it's important for so many reasons to have mentors. And something that one of the folks said today, and I apologize, I can't remember. Oh, it was Lena, I think, was saying have multiple mentors, because none of us has the exact same experience that you do. We won't have the same lives. We won't meet the same people. We won't have the same opportunities. So some of the advice will be better than others. But if you have multiple people and multiple perspectives, then you have a more 360 degree, and you have all these different options. You could pick option A, B, or C.
Did you ever work with Carmine Golia, Brad? You ever know that name?
Me?
His name's Carmine Golia. He's a standby painter.
You know what? I have to go. I'm sorry. I have 2 kids at home.
No, time to break it up.
I'm still at Moorpark College. I'm in the TV studio. I need to get home in my pajamas like you all.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone, for coming. You guys are awesome. And we're going to have this recording available for students who need to rewatch it, or who came late, or who weren't able to come at all. So thank you. Your advice is invaluable. And I will be in touch with you for further events, if that's okay, Brad and Rick.
Yeah, sure. And again, anybody who wants to follow up, you can email me, and I'm happy to do whatever I can for you.
That's very generous.
I have my emails there too, guys. Have fun.
Brad, I might email you with recommendations for cameras.
Okay.
For our school.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to sign off.
Awesome.
Now.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Good night.
Mwah.
Good night. Be well.
Thank
you.
you.
Be well.
Thank you.
So long. Thank you, Liz. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Really nice hearing your advice. Thank you.
Okay. Good night, guys.
Night.
Thank you.